Life's journey can be messy. We all stumble through confusing relationships, agonize over tough choices, and feel the sting of loss. Yet in the heart of simplicity, knowing when to remain silent and holding fast to our center, we discover real peace and growth. Life isn't always easy, but by letting go of what doesn't serve us, we uncover genuine value and quiet strength. Today, let's explore timeless principles for communication and personal development, how to master your emotions, avoid unnecessary mistakes, and use silence to earn respect and maturity. First, if someone doesn't reply to your message, resist the urge to keep texting. At first glance, it might seem harmless to send a follow-up. After all, you just want closure or clarity, but each unanswered ping chips away at your self-respect. Silence on the other end often signals that the person is either not interested or simply isn't ready to engage. Continuing to message without a reply places you on the defensive, making you appear needy and undermining your dignity. Instead of fixating on your phone, redirect that energy towards something productive. Dive into a hobby you love, call a friend who values your time, or tackle a small project you've been postponing. If resolution is essential, opt for a face-to-face conversation when the moment is right. Nothing substitutes the authenticity of in-person dialogue. By choosing to step back rather than chase responses, you reinforce your boundaries and demonstrate that your time and emotions are not at the disposal of others. In doing so, you cultivate an inner confidence that says, "I am worthy of attention, but I won't beg for it." This simple rule, silence as an answer, becomes a powerful tool for preserving both your emotional well-being and your self-worth. Second, learn to relish your own company. Many mistake solitude for loneliness and scramble to fill every idle moment with social media or superficial gatherings. But genuine aloneness, time spent entirely on yourself, can become your greatest ally. Picture a quiet morning with a steaming mug of coffee and your favorite book, or an evening stroll where each step gives you space to breathe and reflect. In these moments, you strip away external demands and tune into your thoughts and needs. Journal about your dreams, learn a new language via an app, practice painting, even if you've never held a brush, or simply sit in stillness and observe your breath. Painful emotions that surface during solitude aren't signals to panic. Rather, they invite you to process grief, frustration, or fear on your terms. Allow yourself to cry in private, acknowledging that tears are a natural outlet for stress. Then, when you're ready, gently remind yourself that the world still waits for you and that you possess the resilience to move forward. Embracing solitude in this way sharpens your self-awareness, renews your spirit, and equips you to engage with life more fully when you step back into community. Third, if someone or something begins to slow your forward movement, have the grace and courage to change direction. Life unfolds as a vast journey, one where not every traveler remains at your side. Sometimes well-meaning friends, old partners, or familiar situations become burdensome roadblocks, shifting the terrain under your feet and sapping your momentum. Clinging to those ties out of guilt or habit only prolongs stagnation. Instead, listen to the quiet promptings of your heart. Recognize when a relationship no longer supports your growth and release it gently. This isn't about giving up at the first sign of hardship, but about honoring your deepest needs and aspirations. Picture yourself at a fork in the road, one path lined with wilted vines of regret, the other offering fresh shoots of possibility. Choose the latter. By redirecting your energy away from what drags you down, you sidestep unnecessary conflict and open yourself to new connections, stimulating projects and environments that resonate with your purpose. In doing so, you not only preserve your peace of mind, but also set the stage for unexpected opportunities to emerge, encounters that invigorate your spirit and propel you toward the life you truly want to lead. Fourth, remember that the deepest hurt often comes not from others' words or actions, but from how you interpret and internalize them. It's easy to believe someone else wields power over your feelings, that their criticism or indifference defines your worth. Yet no one can truly wound you unless you grant them that permission. Picture a sharp remark. On its own, it is simply sound, but when you replay it in your mind, let it settle into your chest and build stories around it, it grows into a searing pain. The moment you recognize this process, you reclaim control. Instead of allowing a careless comment to fester, observe it as a neutral fact. Words have been spoken. Then choose your response. You might correct a misunderstanding, calmly state your boundary, or simply let the remark fall away like leaves from a tree. By refusing to internalize negativity, you preserve your emotional equilibrium. No external force can dictate how you feel. You are the steward of your inner landscape. When you embrace this truth, you stand unshakable, rooted in self-awareness and impervious to needless suffering. Fifth, when sorrow or hardship weighs heavily on your heart, seek out a trusted friend to share your burden. While solitude can be healing, some pains need the gentle balm of another's presence. Confiding in someone who listens without judgment lightens the load and brings a fresh perspective. Think of your closest ally, the one whose voice steadies you, whose empathy feels like a warm hand on your shoulder. Reach out, pick up the phone or meet over coffee, and simply tell them how you're hurting. You don't need to fashion the perfect story or suppress tears. Authenticity is what matters most. In voicing your struggles, you not only unburden your spirit, but also invite kindness and wisdom that can guide your next steps. Supportive friends don't solve all problems, but they remind you you're not alone. Their encouragement can spark hope, easing anxiety's grip, and inspiring resilience. Asking for help isn't a sign of weakness. It's an act of courage and self-care. By sharing your pain with someone you trust, you empower yourself to heal, and you deepen the bonds that make life's journey richer and more meaningful. Sixth, when sadness or hardship strikes, don't suffer in silence. Reach out to a trusted friend and share what's in your heart. There's a common misconception that keeping pain to yourself demonstrates strength, but locking feelings inside often amplifies loneliness and despair. Instead, identify someone who truly listens without judgment, a friend whose voice feels like a lifeline when you're adrift. Send them a message or arrange a time to meet and simply speak your truth, the worry, the exhaustion, the ache you can't shake. You don't need to package your story perfectly or hide your tears. Authenticity is the gift you offer both yourself and your friend. As you vocalize your emotions, you relieve the pressure valve of bottled up anxiety and open space for compassion to flow in. Your friend's empathy won't erase the problem, but their understanding can lighten your load and spark insights you might not see alone. They may offer a comforting perspective, practical advice, or simply a listening ear. And that act of solidarity reminds you you're not navigating life's storms unaccompanied. Asking for support is not a sign of weakness. It's a courageous expression of self-respect and care. By sharing your burden, you nurture the connections that fortify you, turning a moment of vulnerability into a bridge toward greater resilience and hope. Seventh, when you love someone, summon the courage to tell them. True bravery in love lies not in grand gestures or perfect timing, but in honest vulnerability, the willingness to lay your feelings bare, regardless of the outcome. Too often we harbor affection quietly, hoping the other person discerns our heart's murmurings and responds in kind. But silence breeds what-ifs and regrets more than any rejection could. Instead, choose clarity. Find a calm moment, look them in the eye, and speak from the heart. You might say, "I cherish you more than I've let on," or "My feelings for you have grown into something deeper," and then pause, allowing the weight of those words to settle. Whether their answer is a joyful yes or a gentle no, you will have honored your truth and avoided the bitterness of unspoken maybes. Moreover, the act of confessing love strengthens your self-confidence. It tells you that your emotions are valid and worthy of expression. If they reciprocate, you'll embark on a journey built on openness. If they don't, you'll still walk away proud, knowing you dared to be your authentic self. In either case, voicing your love enriches your life and affirms your capacity for genuine connection. Eighth, when your emotions are turbulent, angry, anxious, or overwhelmed, grant yourself the grace of pausing before you act. In those moments, our brains crank up the volume on every negative impulse, making rash decisions and harsh words feel justified. But a racing heart rarely leads to wise choices. Instead, permit yourself to step away, excuse yourself from the conversation, take a few deep breaths, or simply count to 10. Better yet, allow yourself the restfulness of a short nap or a full night's sleep. Slipping into slumber is one of the most powerful resets for a frazzled mind. As you drift off, your brain works through the storm of emotions, filing away what belongs to memory and discarding what only clouds your judgment. Upon waking, you'll find a calmer heart and clearer head, making it far easier to revisit the situation with perspective. Decisions made in that fresh state are grounded in reason rather than reactivity. A problem that felt insurmountable at 3 a.m. often seems manageable by sunrise. By honoring your need for rest and trusting that time isn't your enemy, you transform emotional upheaval into clarity, ensuring your responses align with your values rather than your momentary turmoil. Ninth, never demand that someone prove their affection with words like, "Do you love me?" or "Do you miss me?" True love and care reveal themselves through consistent actions, not through verbal verification. When you press someone for such confirmation, it often stems from your insecurity rather than a genuine need for evidence. In healthy relationships, affection is woven into the everyday fabric of life. Someone remembers your favorite snack, checks in when they know you've had a rough day, or offers a helping hand without being asked. These gestures speak volumes far beyond any declarative, "I love you." By focusing on tangible expressions, shared laughter, thoughtful surprises, supportive presence, you cultivate trust and mutual understanding. If you constantly seek verbal proof, you put undue pressure on the relationship and risk undermining the very bond you cherish. Instead, practice attunement. Observe how your partner treats you in small moments and trust those signs. Allow your heart to feel their care without demanding that they spell it out. Over time, this faith in unspoken devotion fosters deeper security and intimacy because you've learned that the truest love is lived, not just declared. 10th, avoid the trap of overanalyzing every twist and turn in your life. It's natural to want to control outcomes, to fine-tune every detail so that nothing goes awry. But excessive rumination breeds tension, distraction, and even regret. Picture yourself rehearsing a conversation in your head, running through every possible scenario until the joy of interaction is lost in a tangle of what-ifs. Or imagine checking off one tiny task after another, only to discover that in your pursuit of perfection, you've missed the bigger picture. The laughter in an unexpected detour, the lesson hidden in a setback. Sometimes the wisest move is to release your grip and let events unfold. Trust that life's currents will carry you to exactly where you need to be, even if the route isn't the one you drew on your mental map. By stepping back, you free yourself to notice small wonders, a chance meeting on your commute, an insight sparked by an idle thought that strict planning would have obscured. Cultivating this easygoing stance doesn't mean you abandon goals. Rather, you balance intention with openness. You set your compass, then embrace the journey, knowing that a little spontaneity can lead to richer experiences than you ever scripted in your mind. 11th, permit yourself to be a little foolish now and then. In a world that prizes seriousness and polished competence, we often suppress our playful side, afraid that silliness will undermine our credibility. Yet a touch of genuine goofiness can lighten tension, spark creativity, and remind us that perfection is overrated. Think back to the last time you let loose, a spontaneous dance in your living room, a joke that made you snort with laughter, or an impromptu doodle that bore no relation to any grand plan. In those moments, you tapped into a deeper humanity, the ability to revel in simple joy and connect with others through shared amusement. Foolishness isn't about abandoning responsibility. It's about inviting authenticity into your daily routine. When you allow yourself to crack a ridiculous pun in a meeting, wear mismatched socks on purpose, or admit you have zero idea what you're doing, and laugh about it, you demonstrate confidence and humility in one stroke. This playful courage not only endears you to those around you, but also renews your spirit, reminding you that life's best moments often emerge not from careful calculation, but from the unguarded delight of being perfectly imperfect. 12th, make it a habit to hold your tongue when tempted to speak ill of others. Gossip and harsh criticism may feel satisfying in the moment, but they insidiously erode trust and damage your reputation more than the person you target. Imagine a coworker who's late on a project. Whispering complaints to colleagues might momentarily unite you in shared frustration, yet it also sows seeds of suspicion and fragmentation in the team. Instead of venting, pause and ask yourself what purpose your words truly serve. If you're seeking a solution, address the issue directly and respectfully, either by offering assistance or by speaking privately with the person involved. If no constructive path forward exists, choose silence. By refusing to participate in needless negativity, you demonstrate integrity and self-control. Others will notice your restraint and view you as someone who uplifts rather than undermines. Over time, this approach builds stronger relationships because people feel safe confiding in you without fear that their vulnerabilities will become fodder for idle talk. Ultimately, protecting your speech preserves your dignity and fosters a culture of respect wherever you go. 13th, recognize that while your mind's capacity for thought is limitless, it thrives on well-defined boundaries. Creativity and problem-solving flourish when you allow your imagination to roam, but without guardrails, you risk getting lost in spirals of distraction or anxiety. Picture yourself brainstorming a personal project. Without any focus, your ideas ricochet from one shiny possibility to another, painting, writing, coding, until excitement gives way to overwhelm. To harness your mental energy, set clear objectives and timeframes. For example, allocate a half hour solely to drafting story ideas, then switch to research for a separate block. Use simple tools, lists, mind maps, or scheduled breaks to channel your thoughts toward tangible outcomes. When negative or tangential thinking intrudes, gently steer your attention back to the task at hand. This structure doesn't stifle innovation. Rather, it provides a scaffold on which your best ideas can stand. By consciously limiting the scope of your thinking, you avoid the drift into confusion and ensure that each mental effort moves you closer to your goals. In mastering this balance between freedom and focus, you unlock the full potential of your mind for purposeful, productive action. 14th, cultivate friendships across gender lines. Too often, we gravitate toward people who look, think, and feel just like us, seeking comfort in the familiar. Yet a friend of another gender can offer fresh insights precisely because their life experiences and perspectives differ from your own. When you invite someone of the opposite sex into your circle, whether as a colleague, confidant, or classmate, you open the door to new ways of seeing the world. Perhaps she notices emotional undercurrents you tend to ignore, or he approaches problem solving with a logic that complements your style. These complementary strengths can spark creative breakthroughs, deepen your empathy, and broaden your emotional vocabulary. Of course, boundaries and mutual respect remain essential. Trust and clear communication lay the foundation for any enduring friendship. But when you honor those boundaries, cross-gender friendships become laboratories for personal growth, challenging stereotypes, and expanding your capacity for understanding. In these relationships, each conversation becomes an opportunity to learn a nuance of human experience you might never have encountered within same-gender circles. By embracing diversity in your social life, you cultivate not only richer friendships, but also a more flexible, resilient sense of self, one capable of engaging with all facets of humanity. 15th, think before you speak, but don't feel compelled to voice every passing thought. The hallmark of mature communication lies in the delicate balance between honesty and discretion. On one hand, pausing to consider your words prevents unintended offense. You weigh the impact of your message, choosing language that builds rather than breaks. On the other hand, complete transparency, spilling every inner monologue, can overwhelm listeners and undermine your sense of poise. Imagine you're in a team meeting and spot a flaw in a proposed plan. Instead of blurting out a half-formed critique, take a breath, gather your observations, and frame your feedback constructively. Or consider a personal conversation where you're torn between admiration and insecurity. You might decide to share only the aspects that foster connection, holding back the darker anxieties until you've turned them into productive self-reflection. This selective sharing isn't deceit, it's tact. By choosing what to reveal and what to reserve, you preserve your integrity and respect others' emotional bandwidth. Over time, this careful curation of speech demonstrates wisdom. People come to rely on your words as thoughtful, purposeful, and true, rather than as unchecked streams of consciousness. 16th, When you decide to make a significant change in your life, whether it's a new career path, a major habit shift, or a personal reinvention, keep your plans close to your chest and let your actions speak for themselves. Announcing every intention to the world often invites doubt, criticism, or unsolicited advice that can dilute your focus and sap your motivation. Instead, quietly set your goals, create a roadmap, and devote your energy to steady progress. Imagine planting a seed. You don't shout about the tiny bud. You water it day by day until it breaks through the soil. Similarly, by working in silence, you shield your dreams from external noise and retain the flexibility to adapt without pressure. When others finally see the results, your polished new skill, the completed project, or the confident person you become, they'll witness undeniable proof of your dedication and discipline. That moment of reveal carries far more impact than a string of promises ever could. Silent transformation isn't about secrecy. It's about honoring the process, trusting in your commitment, and demonstrating that real change doesn't need a spotlight. It thrives in the quiet persistence of intentional effort. 17th, make it a personal rule to resolve conflicts within 24 hours of their emergence. Unresolved disagreements are like smoldering embers. If left unattended, they flare into resentment and misunderstanding, corroding even the strongest connections. By addressing friction promptly, whether with a friend, partner, or colleague, you nudge tensions into the light before they harden into grudges. Start by recognizing the moment conflict arises, then summon the courage to engage in a calm, honest conversation. Choose a private space where both parties feel safe to speak openly. Listen actively, allowing the other person's perspective to be heard, and then share your own experience without blame, focusing on I statements to express how you feel. A sincere apology or a willingness to compromise can diffuse most disagreements in minutes. Even if you don't reach total agreement, the mutual effort to clear the air shows respect and maturity. When you commit to swift resolution, you prevent small misunderstandings from ballooning into costly ruptures. Over time, this practice fortifies trust because people learn they can rely on your integrity and care to navigate rough patches quickly. In the rhythm of daily life, a settled conflict is a gift, freeing everyone to move forward unburdened and closer than before. 18th, never fall into the trap of blaming circumstances for your setbacks. It's tempting to point fingers at external forces, an unfair boss, an uncooperative market, bad timing, but every failure carries a lesson you alone can choose to learn. When you own responsibility, you reclaim power. Instead of lamenting that the world dealt you a poor hand, lean in and dissect what went wrong. Was your preparation thorough? Did fear hold you back from taking bold steps? Did you adapt quickly when obstacles emerged? By asking these tough questions, you transform each defeat into a roadmap for growth. Envision a blacksmith forging steel. Each hammer strike and each crack in the iron serve to strengthen the blade. Similarly, every stumble tempers your resilience, enhances your skills. Embrace failure as feedback, not as a verdict on your worth. Then pivot, revise your strategy, acquire missing knowledge, or cultivate new habits, and try again with renewed clarity. Over time, this mindset shift, from blaming circumstances to seeking insights, creates an unshakable foundation for success. You'll find that what once felt like a crushing blow becomes the very forge in which your greatest strengths are forged. In this way, failure ceases to be an endpoint and becomes instead a catalyst for relentless, empowered forward motion. 19th, love yourself before seeking love or validation from others. Self-affection isn't vanity. It's the bedrock of healthy relationships and sustainable happiness. When you genuinely appreciate your worth, you emit a confidence that naturally attracts people who respect and cherish you. Begin by cultivating daily rituals of self-care, whether that means taking a morning walk to breathe fresh air, setting aside time to read, or simply pausing for a few deep breaths when stress mounts. Acknowledge your achievements, no matter how small, and forgive yourself for imperfections, understanding that flaws are part of what makes you unique. Speak to yourself with kindness, replace self-criticism with encouragement, and watch how your inner narrative shifts from doubt to empowerment. As you build this loving relationship with yourself, you'll stop tolerating mistreatment or settling for less than you deserve. You'll recognize genuine affection when it appears, and you'll be less likely to rely on external approval for your sense of worth. In loving yourself first, you create a reservoir of emotional strength that sustains you through life's ups and downs. And in that fullness, you become both magnet and mirror, inviting authentic love into your life and reflecting the very respect and compassion you've learned to offer yourself. 20th, practice listening more and speaking less. In our fast-paced world, it's easy to default to talking, filling silences, sharing opinions, and broadcasting ideas as quickly as they form. Yet the real power lies in our ability to tune in, to hear the unspoken emotions behind a friend's words, to notice the hesitation in a coworker's voice, or to absorb the wisdom tucked into a stranger's story. When you consciously choose silence, you create space for genuine understanding. Imagine pausing before responding in conversation, not because you're disinterested, but because you're fully present, weighing each detail with care. This quiet attentiveness builds trust, as people feel truly heard and validated. Moreover, the insights you glean in those quieter moments often guide you to more thoughtful, impactful contributions when you do speak. Rather than rushing to fill every gap, you learn to wait for the right moment, offering words that resonate rather than clutter the air. Over time, cultivating this habit of deep listening sharpens your emotional intelligence, strengthens your relationships, and opens doors to learning you might never have found through monologue alone. In essence, by choosing to speak less and listen more, you transform ordinary interactions into meaningful connections. 21st, live unapologetically for yourself, embracing a healthy dose of carefree independence. It's human nature to worry about pleasing everyone, seeking approval from family, friends, or society at large. But trying to satisfy every expectation often leaves you stretched thin and disconnected from your desires. Instead, permit yourself to prioritize what truly brings you joy and fulfillment, even if it defies convention. Perhaps that means pursuing a passion project nobody else understands, setting aside time for that weekly hike when others are busy, or adopting an unconventional lifestyle that aligns with your values. True freedom comes from releasing the burden of constant validation and trusting your compass. This isn't about becoming reckless or disregarding others' feelings. It's about acknowledging that you cannot and should not live your life to fit someone else's mold. When you lean into your authentic preferences, you model courage for those around you, inspiring them to honor their paths. By living responsively to your own heart rather than reactively to external pressures, you cultivate resilience, creativity, and a profound sense of inner peace. Ultimately, the happiest life isn't the one that checks off society's boxes, but the one that aligns with the unique blueprint written in your soul. Finally, cultivate compassion and understanding. Like the monk who lost his temper with fellow students but laughed with a curious monkey, realize that judgment often reveals more about you than about them. Treat others as you'd want to be treated, with kindness, patience, and empathy, for we all stumble in our ways. Open your heart with the eyes of compassion and the wisdom of acceptance, and you'll find that true maturity lies not in perfection, but in the grace with which you navigate life's imperfections.